Hello everybody. Evan Abrams here with some more video challenges for you. Rounding out your week. It's Wednesday, August 30th. Today we're going to do one of my favorite things, which is animate some logos. So, that's what I'm bringing to you today. We're going to be dipping into Adobe Express for some of the video and animation tools available in there. And then we are going to kick it over into After Effects, which is the more let's say motion graphics forward cousin of Premiere. So if at any point you think, oh, I need to animate this, I need to do a lot of really nitty gritty changes to some stuff, we probably want to be getting into After Effects. Hello everybody in the chat. Hey there Oliver. Hey there Armad, Sam holding it down. If people have any questions about what you see, get at me in the chat. I'll try to help you out. Bruce, what's going on? We are going to, like I say, we're going to start in Express. We're going to talk about some of the ways things are animated in there. Then we're going to get into how the process of animating stuff is quite a bit different. Well, not that much different in After Effects, but if you're new to After Effects, don't be intimidated. It's going to be a chill time. I'm going to keep it basic. And then tomorrow, stick around. If you like what we do today, stick around for tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be sort of taking what we do today and elevating that with even more techniques. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the screen. Let's get to work. All right. So, here's where we're kind of going in After Effects. We have a logo for, I don't know, maybe a cool podcast about Dungeons & Dragons. I don't know. Whatever it's about. That's what we're going to be doing. If you want to get your hands on the starter files, links to that in the description. Sam's dropped in a link in the chat. And all of this begins, our story begins once upon a time in Illustrator. So critically, I've designed this up in Illustrator. I put design in quotes. I don't do a super good job of my graphic design skills, but we've got words. I've turned them into shapes. I've converted them, and I added a couple of little embellishments that are based on the angles and sizes of things of the letter forms. But critically, here's the critical hit of this one. We want to make sure that we have these things separated in some way. Don't leave it all on one layer. Break it up into different layers. And in particular, break it up into the groups of things that you think will be moving independently from each other later on down the road. So if you anticipate, okay, I'm going to move these bars independently from each other and independent from everything else, I might animate each word and this and I might animate those separately. Let's move those onto different layers. Let's make sure that we label our layers something. So layer 3 is not a great label, but hack and slash and bottom bar and top bar, those are good labels. So doing stuff like that is good. You can relabel things by just double clicking on them. And if you double click on the layer, you get into the layer options and rename them there. But then you save this and then we go make use of it. So it all stems from this, break the stuff up, chop it apart. I think I chose this as the logo form because it works thematically with everything we're going to be doing here. So again, chop the thing up into the parts that you think will be animated separately from each other. All right, let's dip into, get my Google Chrome open here so we can get into Express, and I'll show you how we animate some stuff pretty simply in Express. So here's a little example. Not much to this, just weep, whoop, and that's it. So we can animate pretty much anything in Express this way, that we can simply just select anything that we've brought out here and give it animation behaviors, we would say. It's nice to think about these as behaviors that we're attaching to objects. So for example, I'll just, let's start a new page up over here, fresh new page. And then I will, let's see, I need to just drag in my stuff. So I'll get my logo here, hack and slash a logo type, plomp it on down onto the timeline, blink, there it goes. And then, because this is considered a single object, right, we animate this by simply selecting it, going down to animation. Oh, I think is my head in the way? Hold on, I'll just kind of move this over a little bit so my head's not blocking the whole thing. There we go. You're going to come down to animation. You give that a click. You can give it an in behavior. So let's say it drifts in, and then it can have a looping behavior, something it does while it hangs out. And then we can give it an out behavior. Let's say I just gave it the drift to show up and leave. So it's going to show up, and then it's going to leave eventually. Bye. But here's the critical thing. If we tighten up the duration and we change the personality to something like loud or strong, right, we can get even more different ways of this coming in. So maybe it's strong, maybe it's energetic. These are all changing what we're going to come to call the motion curves of this stuff, right? So this is going to change the way it feels when the stuff shows up. And then we can change the direction to have these coming in different ways or leaving in different ways. It's all up to us how we want this stuff to work out. So we can tweak duration, personality, and direction of the drift in. The different animation behaviors, we'll say, have different properties to them. But hey, let's go ahead and while we're thinking about it, we're going to come into media. Let's go into video. Let's grab a castle in here, specifically Edinburgh Castle, if you wish. But let's see. This looks like a nice kind of fairy tale castle. I'm going to drop this down over here. I'm going to say fit to video. I'm going to change the order of the things, and there we go. So here we go. We've got a little intro to our podcast teaser, if that's what we want. Here's a little tip for you, though. If you find we've put a dark thing on a dark background, we could recolor this thing. But something else you can do is you can come into Effects. We can come down into Duotone, and we can, because this is black, we're just going to change the shadows to white. We change the highlights to black, basically doing a quick invert to this stuff, right? So that is kind of a move that's pretty quick and dirty to get this done. It doesn't change anything about the object, but there we go. We got the thing showing up. We got it leaving. Remember, though, we broke this thing apart, and what we want to do is actually animate this stuff independently. So, remember, back here, we smashed it up into pieces. So, how do we access that in Express? And Marcia, we're going to get into After Effects coming up real soon. I'm gonna motor my way through this so we can get into the more specific stuff in After Effects. To make use of the breaking stuff apart quality of things, you want to come back to your home and you want to say start from content. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. So I'm really trying to fight that sneeze. And we're going to select that .ai file and we're going to say open. Now, what it's doing, if you check this out, it is converting this thing. It's going to evaluate this thing. It's going to do something with it. Then I'm going to say, go ahead and open that up. And if I select on this object now, we see this function that says ungroup. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup that. And as you can see, it has busted that up into a lot of different pieces. So it has made really specific choices about how this needs to be broken up. I'm going to grab these things. I want hack to be a group, so I'm going to group that. I want slash to be a group. I'm going to group that. And now we can select each of these elements and actually animate them all independently. So I'm going to come down to animation. I'm going to give this an in. I'm going to give it this kind of slide move. I'm going to get the timeline up in here. So that one is sliding in. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide in opposite direction. So now we got those two coming in. Let's go hack slash and we're going to give those the animation of slide them in. We're going to slide them all in because we want to get through this part pretty quick. Slide, slippity slide. And we're going to slide that. Okay, everybody's sliding. So if we play this through, everybody's sliding in, everyone's showing up at the same time. I'm going to click show layer timing, and then I'm going to start grabbing elements and shifting them in time. So if we come here, we select the and, I'm going to give that a little pinch so it starts at 4.8. I'm going to grab the slash, and that one's going to happen at 4.6. And then let's grab these ones here, and let's pinch those to something like 4.4, maybe, and also 4.4. So we'll roll back and play that. And there we go. We've just got this little logo building on situation, right? Select all of that, hit group. We've ended up in the same kind of grouping category, but all of those independent things are still happening. And if I go ahead and give this a little slide around, I can now move this whole group, which I have got individual things happening. I can double click on this and come inside the group, and I can still adjust their individual timings in here. The other thing that's kind of fun is if you select this thing, all right, it's shown up with all these different things. You can even, again, give this its own kind of showing up property. So I've got the whole group coming in with that, compounding all of the other movements that I've got happening inside of it. So I'm going to give it sort of a much longer kind of slide duration while everybody else is doing their slides. It's doing one big slide. So you can combine and compound and do interesting things. So there we go. And then, of course, we can slip some video in behind this, or here's some cool fire that's going on back there. I'm getting away from myself with this. Anyway, the point is you got options. If you want more options, if you want to get even more granular, it's time to take it into After Effects. So let's do it. We're here in After Effects. When we import, we double-click in our project space, and we are going to navigate to find our excellent files. So here we go, hack and slash logo type. We're going to say open that, and it's going to ask us how we want to bring it in. What do we want to do with that? And you could say, let's just import it as footage, right? That'll keep it as one layer. Or you can say, choose which layer. Or you can say, bring it in as a composition, and this will retain all of the layers. So I'm going to say exactly that. Bring it in as a composition, and the footage dimension I want to be layer size. We hit OK, and you can see this has created a composition, and it's brought in a folder with a bunch of layers. And so if I go into this, this has these 5 layers. All of these layers are the same as they were named in here. It has created a composition that is the same size as this artboard. And if you're going to do this type of thing, make sure you only have one artboard hanging around. It's going to prevent confusion. But got all these individual layers. We can do whatever we want with them. In Express, what we were doing was applying behaviors to these things. In After Effects, we're basically creating the behaviors ourselves. And we do that by adjusting things that are true about these layers. If you hit this little twirl down, or if you come into your properties panel, you're going to see over here things that are true about this layer. Anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. These are all properties of a layer. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to move ahead to about, say, 20 frames. I'm going to click these little stopwatches here for position and opacity, because these are the properties, these are the things about this that I want to change over time. So opacity, how opaque or transparent something is, and the position, where it is in the world. This is considered to be wherever this little anchor point widget piece of the UI is saying. That's where it is. And by clicking on the stopwatch, it's going to set keyframes at where the current time indicator is, sometimes called a playhead. I guess it's important to name those layers. Yes, please do that. If I can enforce one thing, let's name them. So this is sort of the resting state. This is where I want us to get to. So that's why I've set that at 20 frames. I'm going to roll back to 0 frames and make some changes. So I could dial in the change to the position manually, or I can just grab on the thing and move it around. Now I'm going to hold down Shift while I'm doing that to keep these in nice straight lines. And you see that has created another keyframe. And if we press play, you can hit spacebar and you can see the difference between where it was and where it will be. The keyframes are then interpolating between, and we're ending up with motion. It's pretty great. Let's move these other things in different directions. So let's move hack in this direction. Let's move slash in this direction. Let's move and up. I don't know. And then there's nothing to really change in the UI about, I'm going to say their opacities. So I'm just going to go ahead, select all the layers. I'm going to grab the opacity value, and I'm going to crank that value down so they all come down to 0. Press play, and it's suitably retro showing up of all of these elements, right? But the personality is not particularly what I want. This is not the personality of an explosive type of logo. These are linear keyframes. We can tell they're linear because they are diamonds. And if we wanted them to be a different way, we could right-click on them, make sure you select them, and then right-click on them, keyframe assistant easy ease. And now if we press play, you see that they're moving in kind of a different way. They're easing to this value. To really tell what we're talking about when it comes to values and easing, click on the graph editor button. Hey, Oscar. Hey, Andrea. I'm doing well. Doing the thing I like. Talking about animating logos, So in here, I'm going to click on the graph editor. And in particular, I'm going to come down to the bottom and make sure I'm looking at a value graph, because I think value graph is a nice place to start. And then I'm going to say, turn off show graph editor set, and that'll leave us with just show selected properties. I'll select this positional property. Let's have a little look at what we're seeing here. So we see a red line and a green line. That is, of course, the horizontal and vertical changes. The horizontal value is changing from 100 up to 400, and you can see that it is eased. It's easing into that value, like a hill, like that. Now I'm going to change this into a speed graph, and you let me know if you prefer to see one or the other. We can talk about one or the other, but this is showing me a graph of speed. So it is arriving at a speed of 0. It is coming from this speed. It's getting faster, and then it's plummeting back down like that. If I select all of the positions, let's grab all of those. You can see they all have slightly different speed curves. This is going to allow me to then drag a box around this bottom here, which will allow me to adjust this influence handle, that's called. And I'm adjusting how influential this keyframe is over the speed. That means it's going to be fastest, according to this particular graph. It's going to be fastest then, and then come down to rest. Whoa, like that. So it's accelerating, and then it's easing into this type of a deal. And that's created a bit of a behavior. Now, if I want to get this really extreme, I'm going to grab these handles, give them a pull kind of like that, so it's even more extreme off of the jump. But this is where you play around and you sculpt the movement to be exactly what you want. Now, I'm going to come back into here. I'm going to select all of their opacities. I'm not going to be as picky about opacities because it's harder to kind of observe, but I'm just going to right-click on them, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, or you can tap F9, or if you're a very cool person like me with all of my mouse buttons, I have that bound to a button on the side of my mouse because it's something I do all the time. Now, I want to move all of these keyframes. I want to pinch them together, and so I'm going to hold down Option, grab on the last keyframe of the bunch, and push them together like that so we can have these become visible and then enjoy the rest of their movement as they kind of ease like that. Okay. I think we're nailing it so far, but we probably don't want all of these to happen at the same time. So let's go ahead and grab the top and bottom bar. I'm going to recolor those layers so we can differentiate from them. I'm going to grab hack and slash. Let's change their colors to maybe a pink like this. And let's leave that one at its original because, don't do more work than you have to. And we'll just shift these to when we want them to happen. So maybe this should happen around here, and then we want hack, and then slash, maybe like that. Let's play that through. Like that. And this is where we want to play with our timing, right? It's so easy for us to just grab these and brush them around like that. I do kind of like a little bit of a kind of a cadence to the thing. We want to set up a kind of rhythm and a beat and a cadence to this stuff that we're doing that has a feel to it, like boop, bop, beep. Or maybe, let's see, if we wanted it to be more regular, it might be like doop, doop, doop. And then let's hold for a bit. Doop, doop, doop. Ba-dum. Okay, so that's got to happen a little bit sooner. So it's ba-dum, like that. So adjust these as you like. This is where you really play around and you make it your own. I prefer to have things go a little bit like bop, 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 and then a final. Speaking of, I'm going to tap the U key, and the U key will bring up all of the things that we've set keyframes on. And this is where I probably want to be tightening some of these down. So I'm going to grab the and make sure that the and comes on a little bit faster because the and is smaller, right? And it can probably stand to move a little bit quicker. I might accelerate the slash by pinching those together because this thing goes fast. This thing is let's say this speed is like 1, right? And then we want to accelerate a little bit faster. And then finally, these will be the fastest of them. So again, you can grab a bunch of things, hold down Option as you bring them together like that. So this is all making use of what we would say are layer properties, right? These are just the properties of the layers themselves. We haven't even touched on scaling and rotating and all that stuff. This is like pretty base level stuff. And really, if you're here in After Effects and you just want to see, well, what could I do with a single layer, right? Even in here, we can replicate the type of movement that you saw over in Express using a single layer. And all I'm doing is adjusting the position, the opacity, and in this case, the anchor point to cause a little bit more of this nice soft drag. We need a metronome for the beat. That's true. It could be. I'm sure someone has a third-party plugin with a metronome in here. But I just have natural rhythm, people say. So this is something that you can do with just one layer, but you can also take it a little bit further. And here, right? Even just using position, you can create a lot of personality with just a few keyframes. And in this case, I have taken my position. You can right click on it and you can separate the dimensions so you can only deal with the X or the Y at the same time. And if we come into this graph editor, remove that reference graph, you can see what I've created in here as we look at the value graph, that we are creating this let's say like a wubbing or a wave or a little undulation here that we're coming in fast, and then we're oscillating on either side, decaying that oscillation and creating this kind of like hit and bounce type of deal. Tomorrow, we're going to take these ideas and go even further with them. But before we do, I don't want to leave this without sort of saying that inside of After Effects, things can get incredibly complicated. You can add on as many layers of complexity as you want. If you're new to After Effects, I'd really encourage just setting keyframes on a couple of things, getting timings down, really getting comfortable with the graph editor, kind of understanding what these changes mean, what is happening with them, starting from the end, always saying this is where we're going to arrive, set our keyframes there, work backwards, where do I want things to have begun, and then resolve to that, and then tweak to taste. I think it's often a mistake to try to do it all at once and to try to know exactly where you're going. You want to try to work in as much, I want to say, playtime or room to be gestural and have fun with it and not be particularly rigid with the stuff. We can always come back and change everything. So no matter what you've done, we can always change it. So for example, I don't like these motion curves. So I'm going to come into here and I'm going to set them back to eased. In fact, I'm going to make this one go a different way. So now it's going to hit like that. And these, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull this one. So everyone else is doing one way of showing up, and I'm going to do it in a different way. Like that. So it causes a different vibe as you change it around. Play with it, have fun. I would say maybe if you're new to just the idea of animating stuff, try it out in here. Try it out in our. I'll remove this terrifying fire. Try it out in Express. See if you like how that's going. And when you want to get even more granular with it, make things happen in here. Export it as a little MP4 and then send it on into the rest of your projects using the rest of your workflow. Out of After Effects, if you are a Premiere person, you can literally just save this and then import the .aep file into your Premiere stuff. Currently, all of the pixels back here that you see are the checkerboard, right? Those are transparent. So if we put this over top of something in Premiere, we're going to see through it. So you've got a lot of stuff. And then in terms of the difference between Express and After Effects for finishing formats for the web, if you want to send something out of Express, you just click on the little share or the download up here, send them out as whatever you like. In After Effects, we are going to go to File, Export, and we are going to either throw this into the media encoder, because it's going public, or into the render queue, probably media encoder. And then you will select the .mp4 format and send that out. There's some great help documentation all about that stuff and exporting of things, depending if you want to send it with alphas and stuff like that. So send it to the media encoder, pick the preset you want, get it out of there, and that'll send it along. So that'll actually do it for the amount of time that I've got with you. Tomorrow, we're going to be taking this even further inside of After Effects. So if you want to see the capabilities and fun things that we can do in here, I hope you come back tomorrow, same time, to do more of that. I'm Evan Abrams. We got a big day of stuff coming up. So stay creative, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all around the internet. Okay, bye for now.